All right, we're here with Mark Schimsheimer running for the open assembly seat in South Anchorage. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for being here with us today.
Well, thank you.
Go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm Mark Schimsheimer, obviously, running for District 6 Assembly, the seat vacated by Jennifer Johnson. I've lived in South Anchorage for 17 years now. I'm married since '99. I've got a daughter, 14-year-old daughter, who goes to Golden View Middle School. I'm a professional civil engineer, and today I'm a real estate consultant and investor and developer. And I'm on the South Golden View Rural Road Service Area Board, and so I've had 8 years of public sector experience doing that, working as a municipal official. And I've had 13 years experience with the state of Alaska. I worked for ADA for 13 years doing development finance projects, so I have quite a bit of public sector background. And I have 10 years experience in oil, gas, and mining consulting as well. So I've got a background in all things Alaskan.
All right, and so why are you running to be on the Anchorage Assembly now?
Well, I've got a strong sense of public service. I believe that everyone at some point in their life should get up and do some public service. My experiences on the road board have been very positive. I've been the chair for the last 8 years, and I've made a lot of absolute substantive contribution to South Anchorage. And so things have gone very well there, and I thought I could take my experience and bring it a step farther to the Assembly, because I, like so many people, are concerned where the city is today and where the state is today. And I just think that I can contribute quite a bit with my experience and background to the current situation that we have.
If voters choose to elect you, what will be your first priority?
I have 5 things that I'm looking at that I would pretty much go after right away, and I can just list them for you real quickly. I believe that the SAP software implementation project should be stopped, and I would try to stop that as quickly as I could before we waste any more money on that. I believe that there are more cost-effective solutions. ML&P is a utility I believe that the municipality doesn't have to own. I believe it's subsidizing the rates today, and we're actually losing money on that. Port of Anchorage is a project I'd like to take a careful look at as a professional civil engineer. I think I can add something there. Our medical costs for municipal employees are going out of sight. And it's not just the benefits that they're receiving, but it's the benefits that we're paying for. We're in a very uncompetitive environment. We need to look at that. And contracting of public services. In the previous administration, the mayor tried, unfortunately failed, to contract out some public services. I'd like to take another look at that to see if we can't get some cost efficiencies.
Okay, let's talk about something that's connected to all of those goals, the budget. How can you help the muni with the budget crisis?
I don't believe that there is a crisis. I think that's a little bit of an overstatement today. I don't think we need more revenue into the municipality. I think we have sufficient revenue. What we do need is a better allocation of resources. Obviously, we need to spend more money on some aspects of government. We need more public safety. We're down 375 officers. We need 450. We're going to have to spend money there. But where does the money come from? It doesn't come from changing the tax cap. It doesn't come from a sales tax. It doesn't come from more tax revenue. It comes from the savings that we can achieve on the 5 things I just noted. SAP can save us tens of millions if we pursue a better alternative. Port of Anchorage, we don't have to spend $300 million on that to build a port that nobody's going to use for the next 50 years if we continue with the current plan. ML&P is becoming a draw on the city. So I see areas to save money. I see areas to make the city more efficient. I don't necessarily think that we have a budget crisis if we proceed to look at those issues.
So with that extra revenue coming in from the state and more taxes, we're looking at cuts. You mentioned a couple areas there where you believe cuts are in order. Is there anything else that you would look at cutting?
I think if you can succeed on those 5, you're looking at so much money that you can save. That pretty much takes care of what you need to do for the time being. There's a list of other issues that you can start to get into above and beyond that. But if you can just pick off those 5, you will have achieved enough savings to offset, more money for police officers, and there won't be any budget crisis, so to speak.
How can the Assembly or the Muni of Anchorage diversify the economy as far as taxes go? Right now, property owners are kind of carrying all of that weight.
Right. That's a tough one, obviously. The state of Alaska, the state, the entire population has just been fixated on oil and mineral resources for the last 30 years. And it's worked for 30 years. Generally speaking, though, the state has failed to diversify the economy. We spent a lot of time, money, and effort on consultants and different groups, Anchorage Economic Development Corporation, so on and so forth, all charged with the mission of diversification, and they have all up and failed. One of the keys, though, to diversification for our economy that I would look at is that we need to attract new businesses to the state. We need to attract new businesses to Anchorage. New businesses take new people, young entrepreneurs, the millennials. When people are looking at moving to a state to do business, they're looking at a couple of key factors for their standard of living. The first is education. If you don't have a quality education system, then no one will move to your city. They look at safety. If you have a public safety problem, people will not come to your city. If you can take care of those two and keep your infrastructure, keep your quality, and we have a quality infrastructure, just maintain your quality infrastructure, keep your taxes reasonably low, you can attract the type of people that we need to come to this city to start the new industries that we've been looking for.
Do you support changes to the way we calculate the tax cap?
No.
Why is that?
Again, it goes back to this whole issue of revenue. The changes that have been kind of the monkeying with the tax cap, so to speak, is all just an endeavor to get more revenue to the municipality off the backs of the property owners. That's what it is. We don't need more revenue. If we can make civic services more efficient, deliver them more efficiently, if we can cut out some of these large boondoggle projects, we don't need the additional revenues. And really we have to start to look at the people of South Anchorage are getting a little bit worried, not just about the tax cap, that's one issue. Juno is talking about income taxes. They're talking about, of course, the PFD. You take the PFD income taxes and talk of a sales tax, you throw it on top of a greater property tax, and we're starting to hit the tipping point where this is no longer a place that you want to do business in.
You've talked a little bit about public safety.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go more in depth here. How do we make Anchorage a safer place to live?
Well, we get the police force up to the level that's been recommended. I've talked to APDA. I mean, 375 is too low. That's a triage situation that they're in. We need to get the number of officers on the streets up. We also need to correctly allocate our resources. We have so many officers that are running downtown to spice incidents, homeless incidents. We need to get that situation under control so we can free up those resources. You've seen a rash of vehicle thefts in South Anchorage, property thefts. Why is that? Well, because South Anchorage is not properly patrolled today, not only because we don't have the officers, but the officers we do have are allocated elsewhere.
The mayor has been pushing housing first. How can the muni help, and how can you help, if you're on the assembly, deal with Anchorage's homeless population?
I believe that a lot of the policies that are in place that actually almost promote homelessness. If I look at the homeless population here in town, it's not just people who have lost their jobs, lost their homes. I have tremendous sympathy for that kind of a situation. But we're talking about almost a professional homeless population that we're starting to develop here in Anchorage. If you talk to the police department, you talk to APDA, they will talk about how some of these policies practically are promoting the situation and making it worse, not making it better. So I would sort of approach this from the tough love perspective. I don't want people dying on our streets. I don't want homeless. I don't want panhandlers. And I understand that we have to do something about it. But doing something about it is not enabling it. So I would look at this a little bit more from a tough love perspective, that we should not be enabling this population to continue growing as it is.
How do we help without enabling?
You know, you already have a lot of private enterprises, private nonprofits, Catholic Social Services, Beans Cafe, Francis Shelter. You know, I think you leave it to them to really help with this situation. There's a fundamental thing here that the mayor is trying to go after, which is that the municipality, the government can solve this problem. The government cannot solve this problem. The government can't solve most of the problems that it is given to solve. That's just not the way it works. They do it with the best of intentions, but the fact is that problems don't get solved. This is not a problem for government to solve.
Okay.
This is a problem for the community to solve.
All right. Another housing issue. There is a shortage of housing in Anchorage, and the Muni is expected to grow. How can the Muni help prepare for that?
Well, a lot of talk is centered around the Title 21 rewrite. I'm a developer. I am one of the few people that probably own a copy of Title 21 and have actually read it and actually have to abide by it. As a developer, I'm on the receiving end of the regulations that the Assembly makes. I don't think too many Assembly members actually understand the impact of what they do when they rewrite Title 21. Above and beyond Title 21, which does need some tweaking, there's no doubt about it, and we have Assembly members that are doing that today, and I support them in that. People on the Assembly have to realize that it's not just a Title 21 issue. It's a planning and zoning issue. It's an on-site water and sewer issue. It's an Army Corps of Engineers wetlands issue. It's a right-of-way issue. It's a building safety issue. It's a watershed management issue. These are all permits that you have to get in order to do anything in the municipality. And that's just a limited list of them. That system where you have to go through and get those permits can be streamlined. That would be incredibly helpful to the developers of Anchorage if we could streamline the city permitting system above and beyond Title 21, which I said needs some tweaking. We need to streamline the system so that if you go into the city offices to get a permit, that in a reasonable amount of time you can walk out with a permit, and that you have an assurance that when you walk in with a reasonable plan, you will actually get a permit. Today it seems to be very arbitrary. Rulings change depending on who you're talking to, and the system, even internally, is so disjointed that there's no flow. If we can take the system and make it flow, and Los Angeles made their system flow, and as a result, they have developers that can go in and walk out with a permit in an hour. Here is closer to 40. If we can just economize that system, make it more efficient, we can go a long ways towards where we need to be.
This summer, Anchorage will witness a brand new industry starting up. How should the Muni be regulating commercial marijuana?
First of all, when the marijuana initiative came out, I was opposed to it. But I respect the will of the voters. If that's what the will of the voters want, is to have a commercial industry, okay. I support people like Bill Evans who are looking at this from a standpoint of the Assembly's job is not to get in the way of the will of the voters, it's to implement the will of the voters. And so a lot of the initiatives that he's come up with, the separation distances, to me seem like reasonable propositions, and I would go forward finding a reasonable way to implement the commercial marijuana business. And I would look at that business something akin to halfway between a tobacco and an alcohol regulated business, somewhere in the middle there.
All right, the Anchorage School District wants to ask voters to pay for bonds over the next 6 years, knowing that taxpayers will likely be paying for all of it. Do you support that?
I have a problem with the bond initiatives that the school district and the city are putting out today, and I have a couple of issues. One of the primary objections I have to the bond initiatives is that they're commingling capital projects and maintenance projects. We should not bond for maintenance. Property taxes pay for the maintenance of our facilities. You bond when the taxes are insufficient. I'm in favor of bonding for capital projects, but what I see today is a commingling of maintenance and capital. And if we're going to do that, we're heading down a very slippery slope to ending up taking your money from taxes and taking your money on top of the tax cap through bond initiatives. So I'm not in favor of the bonds that go beyond the capital required. And most of the bonds today do.
Okay, last question for you. How would you rate the mayor's performance so far? What grade would you give him?
I would give the mayor probably at this point a C+.
Okay, how can he improve?
Well, he can start to change his priorities a little. I mean, he's not going to. He can change his priorities a bit. He's focusing an awful lot on the homeless spice problems downtown. I understand that. But there's a lot of people in South Anchorage that have a lot of needs, and they don't seem to be getting any attention. So I would think that if he could take his focus off of just a small population and start to look at the greater population and the needs of people that pay the taxes in South Anchorage, that would be something I think I could bring him up in my estimation.
All right.
Along with, of course, don't monkey with the property tax.
All right, well, Mark Schimsheimer, South Anchorage, thank you for your time today.
Thank you.